Hello and welcome to my channel, where we're showcasing another horror episode today. You have a case to share. The Kahler family's case. Does a nervous disorder support or contradict this criminal act? A law was enacted in Kansas in 1995, which stated that an offender who committed premeditated criminal activity must be punished. He was unable to attribute his actions to a mental disorder that made him incapable of distinguishing between right and wrong. Irrespective. The passing of this law was a result of the fact that almost all offenders, when brought to trial, sought to avoid being punished. He asserted that he was not in control of his actions or did not understand the consequences, owing to a mental immaturity. The leader of the once prosperous and contented Kahler family attempted to use insanity as a means of protecting themselves, to sidestep any blame for his acts of violence. In spite of this, he was found to be in good health. The belief of psychologists is that his actions were driven by jealousy, rage, and a desire to get even with the ex-wife who deserted him and the daughters who aided her. Regrettably, offenses motivated by jealousy and a psychologically determined revenge are not uncommon, a prevalent occurrence on a global scale. Statistics indicate that these reasons contribute to 1 in 8 crimes committed, or more than 1/8 of all crimes. A person can develop into a victim due to suspicion, insecurity, and an obsession with controlling their partner. A true monster who doesn't spare even his own children. The Kahler family's story. James Craig Kahler was born in Weatherford, Texas in 1963. The same city was where Nee White, his future wife Karen Kahler, was born in 1965. During their time as students at a Texas university, they crossed paths in the early 1980s. Craig was completing his engineering degree while Karen was in the humanities department at the beginning of her studies. Soon after, they started a romantic relationship. Despite their young age and love, they seemed like the perfect match. Craig's dedication and engineering abilities were admired, making him a standout student. Following graduation in the late 1980s, they had a modest wedding attended by only their close friends and relatives. The birth of Emily occurred in 1991, and Lauren followed suit in 1993. They resided in a snug dwelling in Weatherford and were quite financially stable by the community's norms. Craig was granted a well-paying job in 1999 when Karen was pregnant with her third child. Job offer at a prominent utility company in Weatherford. The birth of their son, Sean, who he had feelings for, coincided with his promotion. Craig, who earned a higher income, acquired an apartment in the most exclusive neighborhood of the city, a dependable family vehicle. Karen chose to stay at home while Craig was left as the main breadwinner. The family looked flawless in the mirror. Emily and Lauren, the daughters of the husband and wife, were skilled in sports and music and enjoyed going to sporting events together, vocal competitions, and community-based events. Emily was a top student and attended an esteemed pharmacy school, while Lauren excelled in her studies. The desire of the student was to pursue music studies at a conservatory. Sean's personality was that of an outgoing, amiable, and curious boy, eager to explore new mathematical concepts and set goals, to pursue a career in archaeology. He had a strong bond with his parents and sisters. Craig took care of his family. The home was made more comfortable by Karen, who took care of the children and prepared tasty treats. Their involvement in the community was focused on improving their locality. 3 exceptionally talented children were raised by them as well. Yet despite the assurance of flawlessness, there were still many impediments that family members had to tackle. Preserved. In 2007, Karen told her younger sister Linda that she was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Defective. She expressed that Craig had been overbearing and monitoring her for a long time, and this was one of the things she complained about. The level of control was rising. Craig urged for a comprehensive list of all expenses, including major purchases as well as regular household items. Furthermore, expenses are included. He was given supermarket receipts and bank transaction details by Karen, who then informed him of her whereabouts every day while he was at his job. Craig's strict schedule was followed by all members of the Kahler family. Upon his return from work, his wife and children had to be at home to see him. At certain moments, they went to sleep and woke up eating together and even had intimate moments, had been arranged. Craig's fixation with control persisted for some time. His demands grew more and more stringent. Karen's actions were a result of her selfishness and the hour-by-hour routine. Karen experienced a sense of being enslaved. Her only job was to fill her time. She attempted to satisfy all of her husband's desires, hoping that he would relinquish his dominance. They could return to their previous life, but Craig appeared to be content with his authority and control, was resistant to altering anything. Her sister's revelations left Craig feeling deeply troubled. She, like everyone else, had it all. Craig was deemed the perfect family man, husband and father, and it transpired he also had a great heart. A tyrannical ruler with a domestic agenda. Karen was determined not to ruin her family. Additionally, she and her offspring were involved in some activities. Craig's financial resources are essential. For this reason, she chose to search for a profession that would offer her satisfaction. She had a steady income stream. Despite her age and 3 children, Karen's new hobby is what she enjoys most. The kids were in excellent physical condition. She consistently followed the guidelines of nourishing one's body, periodically adhered to diets, took care of herself, and engaged in daily jogging. From her husband's concealment, she began working at a local fitness club. Every day they are out for several hours. She employed it as a means of discharging steam and diverting herself, getting her mind in order. While Craig was at work, she joined the gym and didn't leave. Observe her engaging in physical activity. The sports club's leaders promptly recognized the attractive, a woman who is both physically fit and mentally active. Karen was offered the chance to try her hand at being a fitness instructor, a period of emulation and the potential for an official employment agreement. The ex-housewife. She never thought she could have such an opportunity, but now she can continue doing what she loves. She can earn a decent income from her affectionate pursuits. In the end, Craig came to the realization that his actions were not always true. The wife was in the gym. Karen anticipated a scandalous event and foresight from her husband. It was unexpected that he calmly let her go. He appeared to be pleased with his wife's discovery. By doing so, she was able to earn her own income. All he wanted was that she had to be at home when he arrived, prepare meals, and not interfere with their pre-planned intimate activities. Due to the fact that she had the freedom of action, Karen found these conditions acceptable. Capacity to support herself without requiring her husband's financial assistance. She spent a significant amount, a love triangle and a sudden spark. It didn't take long for a new fitness instructor to arrive, a team known as Sunny Rice. Karen and Sunny's friendship blossomed after their brief meeting. In Karen's case, having been a stay-at-home mom for years, she was not able to socialize with people outside of her household. Sunny became a trusted friend and companion to the family. The women hung out together at work every day. During the day, she may go for walks, have coffee, and engage in heartfelt conversations with others. It was not. Take a while for their friendship to flourish. It was only natural that they kept their emotions hidden. Everyone had their feelings for each other, but Karen eventually decided it was time to reveal everything. Her husband is the one. She dedicated several months to finding the right topic for this conversation. Uncertainty regarding the beginning and potential consequences of using certain words. She eventually opened up. Craig's time is up to it. While Craig was somewhat perplexed by his wife's disclosure, he did have a rather unsettling reaction. He remained composed and did not create any disturbance. Nevertheless, Craig declared the next day that he consented to his request. Sunny's relationship with his wife was contingent on him being able to join them. Karen embodied the qualities of being human. Her husband's proposal left her stunned and she was unsure how to respond. Even so, Craig hasn't made any commitments. Took the lead and started courting Sunny, sending her flowers and small presents. He gave the impression of having a good-looking appearance, seeking an opportunity to enhance his personal life and introduce newfound passion to the union of his spouse, Karen. Initially, the women agreed to his proposal, but they quickly realized that it wasn't entirely accurate. Craig found it to be a battle of wills. Their strange love triangle didn't endure for long. Craig was made to understand that he was not welcomed in their relationship, disturbed by the feeling of being insulted. Karen was compelled by Craig to terminate the relationship without delay, but she persisted in her romantic liaisons with Sonny, authentic, love. Karen appeared to be prepared to leave her husband of almost 20 years, married with a new partner, shifting to a new location and covert conferences. Craig ultimately concluded that after months of sagacity, disputes, and torturous deliberations, the most effective approach to safeguard his family is to transfer to another state. His gaze widened as he looked around. After applying for a new job, candidates were sent out with resumes and eventually secured the position of directing water projects for an employer, a significant corporation situated in Columbia, Missouri, which is located near Kansas. Craig was of the opinion that his actions were not wrongful. She would no longer have an affair with Sonny if her wife moved to another state, and their family life would be forever changed. Revert to the status quo. The family faced difficulties during the summer of 2008 when they relocated. The kids had to switch schools, make new friends, and adjust to a new city. Craig's new job meant he was handed almost his entire salary, even though the family was already financially secure. He earned twice as much money in Weatherford. Nevertheless, with increased workload and additional work hours. While on the job, Craig mistakenly believed he had permanently removed Sonny from his wife's life. Nonetheless, he was mistaken. Despite the circumstances, Karen and Sonny kept in touch with each other, communication of messages and a covert meeting. For a couple of hours, they would drive to the other side and spend time together after meeting halfway. Before heading back home, stay in a hotel located on the side of the road. Karen was aware that her marriage was doomed. Her love for her husband was gone, and divorce was just a matter of time. These covert alterations persisted until December 2008. The Kahler family was out on New Year's Eve, came back to their place of origin to see their loved ones and acquaintances. This was also attended by Sonny, a celebration. Karen and Sonny's demeanor was initially subdued, with only a friendly exchange of hellos. Nonetheless, they seemed to forget about socializing as the party continued, and they were intoxicated. Requirements: they were inseparable, holding hands, looking on with longing, and occasionally chatting. The guests were spotted kissing among themselves. Craig's anger was not the only thing he felt. Karen had insulted. He was humiliated in front of a large audience of his past roommates, friends, and colleagues. Her affair was made public. Craig caused a disturbance at the party by verbally attacking his wife and Sonny. Craig's anger was evident as he forcefully removed Karen from the party. During the journey home, he lost control of his vehicle. He is a person of his own image. He swung his arms around her shoulders and hit her with such force that her dress became unrecognizable. Distraught, he proceeded to hit her, causing her to stumble and fall before collapsing onto the ground and hitting her head. He was a highly successful actress, and so it goes. Upon reaching home, the dispute persisted, and a few days later, Karen informed Craig that she was departing. He was a part of it. She requested to be granted a divorce and named the children under her care. Initially, Craig endeavored to apologize, pleading to keep the family together for the benefit of the children and offering forgiveness, to give their marriage a second chance. Karen was determined and obtained a divorce. Karen's parents were very happy with her, and she was too. The person in question was a woman. She was very pleased with her, and I am quite happy with what she had done for her. She was very pleased with her. Another time in the early spring of 2009, while they were still residing together, Craig's first use of physical force after an argument ensued, the New Year's Eve celebration. After Karen reported him to the authorities, he was apprehended. Nonetheless, he stated that his wife was hysterical and held her only with great affection at the station, to alleviate her pain, which resulted in bruises on her arms. In the aftermath of this event, Karen declined to wait for a formal divorce, took the children, and moved out. Craig's perspective was that the blow was a significant one, but it made him even more upset when he found out that his daughters had taken their part. They expressed their happiness to their mother, stating that it was the first time they had seen her for a long time, he observed. She treated it as a betrayal and declined to communicate with Emily and Lauren, instead opting to contact Sean. taking him on his weekend trips while showing no regard for his daughters. Simultaneously, Craig's desire for his wife to change her mind was not diminished by the fact that their divorce is still ongoing. Engage in a mental process and return to him. He was envious, exerted influence over her, and pursued her everywhere. He observed her residence, chauffeured her in a rented vehicle, and attempted to stay out of sight. Despite being out of sight, she made an effort to install a concealed camera in her house. It goes without saying that the task was time-consuming and challenging, causing Craig to have to make sacrifices. In the beginning, he went on a holiday. He declared that he was unwell and eventually started missing work without any explanation. His termination was a consequence of his reckless conduct. Shortly after being terminated from his job and Craig's inability to find a source of income, led him to move into his parents' house, acquire his own. With ample time at his disposal, he could stalk his ex-wife for the entire day. The duration of the situation was such that she took his ex-husband to court to prevent him from approaching her. Unnecessary Thanksgiving Day, Karen brought her children to see her 89-year-old mother in November 2009, just before the holiday season. Dorothy White, the grandmother, visited Burlingame, Kansas, a small town, to spend her vacations. The Burlingame Police Department was alerted to an issue on November 29th concerning a questionable vehicle and the noise of gunshots. Dorothy's neighbors claimed to have seen a small creature, a truck pulls, up to the elderly woman's house and a man exits the house. They reportedly heard screams and gunshots but are uncertain about their exact cause. The man subsequently exited the premises. He got back into the truck and quickly drove away from the house. Neighbors did not make an effort to do so, safeguard him, worried that he might have been carrying weapons. The police were met by a housekeeper as they arrived at the scene, calling for assistance from a 10-year-old boy who is terrified. The individual in question was Sean Kahler, who couldn't provide a reason. Despite the circumstances, it was evident that the police were in for a terrifying encounter. Surprisingly, the 89-year-old homeowner was discovered lying in a pool of blood near her front door. Despite being shot twice, the person survived. The police discovered the lifeless body of a 44-year-old in their kitchen. Boy, she was fatally shot in the chest and died at close range due to a gunshot wound to the head. Her ex-husband had left her with no hope of coming back. Her firstborn daughter's remains, a wall and a couch, were the location where Emily, an 18-year-old girl, was located. It seemed that she had made an effort to remain unnoticed. Her father, who was furious, eventually caught up with her and fatally shot her twice. Lauren, her younger sister, was found lying in a pool of blood in one of the bedrooms on the second floor. She was not yet done with her tasks. She was alive, begging for her life with a slight delay, and repeatedly asserting that her father had done it. The elderly woman and Lauren were swiftly taken to the intensive care unit of a nearby hospital. The hospital is where the incident occurred. The doctor's attempts to save them were unsuccessful. The morning of December 1st saw Lauren's death due to a significant blood loss and internal injuries. Her great-grandmother passed away that same day, despite her organs, the only surviving witness. Sean was in a state of shock. He was aided by psychologists, but required an intense scrutiny, being the only present person who witnessed the tragic events at his great-grandmother's house. He expressed his opinion. While his mother was in the kitchen preparing dinner that evening, he approached her to ask for help, request his preferred desserts. Their father's hand was on the door when it suddenly swung open. Armed with a shotgun, he made his way into the house. The man pointed the object without saying anything, cast his weapon over his ex-wife and shot her before moving closer, then firing once more. During the early stages, Sean's freezing state was followed by a silent response from his father, who did not aim but instead turned around and looked at him. He was subjected to a keen gaze. Sean jumped out of the open back door upon realizing that he needed to escape. With the intention of contacting his grandmother and sisters, the boy ran towards the main entrance, in need of support. But as he approached the threshold, more gunshots came out of his ears, uncertainty about what to do. He gained entry into the house and took refuge in a small outbuilding. He waited in anticipation after hearing more shots being fired. The fear of his father's return was present. "Do you know the whereabouts of Mr. Kahler?" Craig was promptly placed on the wanted list with a warning that he was armed and potentially dangerous. The police were able to respond quickly to multiple reports of a speeding truck, identify the path that the gunman was heading. At a certain moment, the man left his car behind. A forested area provided shade as they began walking on a deserted road. The police swiftly drew the attention of the public. He was arrested the following day, left behind in the back seat with the rifle and ammunition. Positioned next to the driver's seat are prescription drugs for depression and anxiety disorders. Mr. Kahler did not resist being arrested. He didn't seem to care anymore. His expression was unsure, and he had an unsettling demeanor. Frightened, he openly admitted to having a gun and hunting knife in his possession, but did not disclose this information, not willing to make use of them. He also owned up to the fact that he had done something terrible, which lacked any evidence of his own guilt. The police had prior knowledge of the matter. Initially, Craig was brought to the police station when he was picked up. He fully acknowledged his guilt and expressed his gratitude to the investigating officer. He conveyed the message. His wife had been unfaithful to him and Sonny, leading to his humiliation in front of his friends. His friends at a New Year's Eve celebration revealed that his efforts to save his marriage had resulted in significant damage, the job and the loss of his self-esteem. He cried and expressed his confusion as to how he had made the decision. He was betrayed by everyone, including his daughters. The concept of trial and fairness is applicable in all situations. The trial of Craig commenced in December 2010. The accused, with the guidance of Thomas's attorney, Heaney, retracted his original statement, attributing it to mental illness and insanity. He had no choice but to seek the death penalty for killing 4 people. He endeavored to persuade the court that his client was experiencing a challenging psycho-emotional state. His state was a result of his wife's decision to leave him for someone else. His offspring backed their mother's defense. He was terminated from his job and compelled to return to his parents' dwelling. Mr. and his lawyer contended that these factors were responsible for the breakdown. The act of killing someone outright was committed by Kahler, who was mentally unstable and oblivious to his actions. A law existed before 1995 that permitted convicts to plead their cases without penalty. Insanity. In spite of this, in Kansas, where the offense was committed and the case was brought to trial, the law was revoked. The prosecution also found no evidence of insanity. The only answer to Craig's actions is cold calculation, as he may be in a state of madness or affective mental state. He pre-purchased firearms and ammunition, went to Dorothy White's home, knowing that his entire family was present. With no hope of a second chance, he shot his victims twice, the importance of staying alive. Despite this, he purposely did not intervene with his son Sean, permitting him to flee. The man was sentenced to death in August 2011 after being convicted on all counts. Sean, at the last hearing, the individual who was 12 years old, provided testimony. He declared that he had the answer. He did not want his father to be killed as he was the only close relative left. Craig and his lawyers appealed several times, but the verdict was not overturned. Despite being released from jail, Mr. Kahler is still fighting to bring the case to light. The decision was made to overturn the death sentence after being reviewed. Following the death of his mother, Sean was able to move on. His sisters were taken into custody by his maternal grandmother. He has accomplished schooling, education, and now desires to be an adult. Stay and work in his place of residence. I appreciate it, guys. By subscribing, you can ensure that clicking the bell indicates your subscription to the channel. Many harrowing accounts lie ahead.